And, you know, my uncles were more of a father figure in my life. And with Perry being the alpha male, you know, I gravitated to him. Coming up, I played sports. He did. You know, that kind of connected us, brought us real close. I'm trying not to be sad. This is a lot harder than I thought it would be. I just remember just all of the memories, man. So more than anything, I just want to say thank you to him, just for being there, just being a real, genuine person, just being loving and caring, and somebody I can count on no matter what. We didn't have much, but coming up, my grandmother tried her best, and wherever she slept, he picked it up for me. He made sure I had sneakers and clothes and a lot of stuff like that, and I appreciate that. I'm gonna end it with a funny story about he was the biggest LeBron James fan, and I remember, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the NBA, but when Cavaliers, they came back on the Golden State Warriors in the finals, and I remember the very first phone call, and I told him, man, you too happy, you sound like you won a championship. And we laughed about it, and you know, he said, man, you know how I feel about LeBron. I did win a championship. So, and every time we would talk, you know, I asked him, like, hey, how you doing, man? You good? And he said, I feel like I won a championship. And that kind of stuck. It was just this inside thing we had. So I know with him being the strong person he was, and seeing everybody come together and just rally around him and extend all of the love and support to our family. And we thankful and grateful. And I know more than anything, with everybody grieving and hurting, he would want us to feel like we won a championship. So I'll end on that note. Thank y'all.
Y'all, please give this family another round of applause. Please show them love. Show them love. Thank you all so much for bearing your hearts. If we learned one thing, the Floyd boys like to eat. And also, they had a conversation with Tyler Perry, and it was pretty profound because they said, we are the big extended black family that you portray, Will Packard and others, on your movie screens, because we all need one another. And you can tell this family always needed George. And so it's awfully difficult for them. The plea for justice is simply this. Dr. Martin Luther King said, he who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. He who accepts evil without protesting against it is really like cooperating with it. You know, to y'all, in that video, what we saw was torture. Reverend Jackson, what we saw in that video was inhumane. Martin III, what we saw in that video was evil. And so America, we proclaim, as we memorialize George Floyd, do not cooperate with evil. Protest against evil. Join the young people in the streets protesting against the evil, the inhumane, the torture that they witnessed on that video. We cannot cooperate with evil. We cannot cooperate with injustice. We cannot Floyd deserve better than that. We all deserve better than that. His family deserve better than that. His children deserve better than that. Steve, all George wanted from life is what any of us want. As Thomas Jefferson said in the Declaration of Independence, the unalienable rights endowed by our Creator, Tyrese, to life, liberty, and the pursuit to be happy on this earth. That's all George was asking for, like any and all of us. But he was denied those rights. And we will seek justice in his name. We will all, united as a people who are God's children, seek justice in his name. But beyond the specific justice, in his case, Chris, prosecution of 4 individuals who deprived George of his life, we seek a broader, more transformative justice. Reverend Al, a more just system of policing. Having a more just treatment of people of color. Chris, a more just criminal justice system. In essence, what we are endeavoring to do, Brandon, is what my personal hero, Thurgood Marshall, said. Make the Constitution real for all Americans. You see, Justice Marshall said the basis of the Constitution is simply this: that a black baby born to a black mother, the most educated black mother, the most inarticulate black mother, the most impoverished black mother, has the same exact rights as a white baby born to a white mother, the most educated white mother, the most articulate white mother, has the most affluent white mother, just by virtue of that baby drawing its first breath as an American. Now, Justice Marshall said, Reverend Jackson, I know that's not the case in America today, but I challenge anybody to say, Tony, that's not the goal we're fighting for. He said, I challenge anybody to say, that's not what makes America the great beacon of hope and justice for all the world to marvel. So when we fight for the George Floyds of the world, but more importantly, when we fight for the unknown George Floyds of the world, when we fight for the Trayvon Martins of the world, when we fight for the Terrence Crutches of the world, when we fight for the Michael Browns of the world, when we fight for the Alton Sterlings of the world, when we fight for the Philando Castillos of the world, when we fight for the Jamar Clarks of the world, when we fight for the Eric Gardners of the world, when we fight for the Sandra Blands of the world, when we fight for the Ahmaud Arbery's of the world, when we fight for the Breonna Taylors of the world, when we fight for the Natasha McKinney's of the world, when we fight for the Stephon Clarks of the world, when we fight for the least of these, what we are really doing is helping America live up to its creed. What we're really doing is helping America be the great beacon of hope and justice for all the world to marvel. But most importantly, brothers and sisters, what we are doing is helping America be America for all Americans. What we want, T.I., is not 2 justice systems in America, one for black America and one for white America. what we endeavor to achieve is equal justice for the United States of America. And George Floyd is the moment that gives us the best opportunity I have seen in a long time of reaching that high idea that this country was founded on. Thank you so much. This is the plea for justice. On behalf of the family, the children, we will get justice. We are committed to it. Now, I would introduce you to a man who really needs no introduction, who will eulogize George Floyd. He is a man who has fought for so many families that too many hashtags to remember. And when he gets the call, he always answers the call. Even when the cameras aren't around, even after the cameras are gone. Ask Eric Garner's family. Ask Stephon Clark's family. Ask any of these families. The cameras have long gone, Tony, but Reverend Al continues to answer the bell when our people call. He is a leader that you see on TV commentating about our experiences, but more importantly, he is a leader who has lived our experiences. And because he have lived those experiences, that's what makes him so effective in commentating on MSNBC about our experiences. And he is going to talk about the experience of the terrible loss of somebody who should be with us today. And that is George Floyd. Please give a great round of applause for the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Thank you. I want us to not sit here and act like we had a funeral on the schedule. George Floyd should not be among the deceased. He did not die of common health conditions. He died of a common American criminal justice malfunction. He died because of there has not been the corrective behavior that has taught this country that if you commit a crime, it does not matter whether you wear blue jeans or a blue uniform, you must pay for the crime you commit. So it is not a normal funeral. It is not a normal circumstance, but it's too common, and we need to deal with it. Let me ask those of you that in the traditions of eulogies need a scriptural reference, go to Ecclesiastes 3rd chapter. First verse says, to everything there is a time and a purpose and season under the heavens. I'm going to leave it there. I saw somebody standing in front of a church the other day had been boarded up as a result of violence, held the Bible in his hand. I've been preaching since I was a little boy. I never seen anyone hold a Bible like that, but I'll leave that alone. But since he held the Bible, if he's watching us today, I would like him to open that Bible. And I'd like him to read Ecclesiastes 3. To every season, there's a time and a purpose. And I think that it is our job to let the world know when we see what is going on in the streets of this country and in Europe, around the world, that you need to know what time it is. First of all, we cannot use Bibles as a prop. And for those that have agendas that are not about justice, this family will not let you use George as a prop. If you want to get your stuff off, don't use him. Let us stand for what is right. Because when I got the call from Attorney Crump, and usually when he calls me, it's not to find out how I'm doing. It's usually because something happened that he wants National Action Network and I to get involved. And he explained to me what was happening with this case. And I'd already heard about it in the media. And immediately I said, well, let me know what you want me to do. He said, whatever you need to do. One of the things, Martin, that I've always had to deal with is critics would say, all Al Sharpton wants is publicity. Well, that's exactly what I want. Because nobody calls me to keep a secret. People call me to blow up issues that nobody else would deal with. I'm the blow up man, and I don't apologize for that. Because you get away too much with hiding things. Funny has talked about y'all putting clothes in the oven to have your clothes dried. Well, I didn't grow up in the third world, but I grew up in Third Ward. I grew up in Brownsville, and we had roaches. Now, I know Kevin Hart and some of the rich Hollywood folk here don't know what roaches are, but we had roaches, Ludacris. And one thing I found out about roaches is that if you keep the light off, if you're in the dark, a roach will pull up to your dinner table and have a 5-course meal. So I learned that one of the ways to deal with roaches is if you cut the light on, I could run them roaches and track them down. And I've spent all my life chasing roaches all over this country. As soon as I talked to the family and got the details and heard that among George's last words was, "I can't breathe," with a knee on his neck, I immediately thought about Eric Gardner. I did the eulogy at his funeral. And I called his mother. And I said, I know we are not going out because of the coronavirus, but this is so much like Eric. If we could arrange some private way to go to Minneapolis, would you go? And she said, Remal, I'm already packing. Let me know. Tyler Perry said, I'll give the families, the plane, whatever y'all need, because this is wrong. Robert Smith said, don't worry about the funeral costs. People across economic and racial lines started calling and getting in. And we flew out here, her and I, last Thursday. And when I stood at that spot, reason it got to me is George Floyd's story has been the story of black folks. Because ever since 401 years ago, the reason we could never be who we wanted and dreamed of being is you kept your knee on our neck. We were smarter than the underfunded schools you put us in, but you had your knee on our neck. We could run corporations and not hustle in the street, but you had your knee on our neck. We had creative skills. We could do whatever anybody else could do, but we couldn't get your knee off our neck. What happened to Floyd happens every day in this country, in education, in health services, and in every area of American life. It's time for us to stand up in George's name and say, get your knee off our necks. That's the problem, no matter who you are. We thought maybe we had a complex, T.I., maybe it was just us. But even blacks that were broke through, you kept your knee on that neck. Michael Jordan won all of these championships, and you kept digging for mess because you got to put a knee on our neck. White housewives would run home to see a black woman on TV named Oprah Winfrey, and you mess with her because you just can't take your knee off our neck. Man comes out of a single parent home, educates himself, and rises up and becomes the president of the United States. And you ask him for his birth certificate because you can't take your knee off our neck. The reason why we're marching all over the world is we were like George. We couldn't breathe, not because there was something wrong with our lungs, but you wouldn't take your knee off our neck. We don't want no favors. Just get up off of us and we can be and do whatever we can be. There have been protests all over the world. Some have looted and done other things. And none of us in this family condones looting or violence. But the thing I want us to be real cognizant of is there's a difference between those calling for peace and those calling for quiet. Some of y'all don't want peace. You just want quiet. You just want us to shut up and suffer in silence. The overwhelming majority of the people marching wasn't breaking windows. They were trying to break barriers. They wasn't trying to steal nothing. They were trying to get back the justice you stole from us. Those that broke the law should pay for whatever law they broke, but so should the 4 policemen that caused this funeral today. We don't have a problem denouncing violence, Mr. Governor. We don't have a problem, Mr. Mayor, denouncing looting. But it seems like some in the criminal justice system have a problem looking at a tape and knowing there's probable cause, and it takes a long time for you to go and do what you see that you need to do. But I'm one that has been Crump said. National Action Network and I've been involved in a lot of these fights. We started around criminal justice. I did speeches and eulogies at most of the funerals that we've had in this space in the last couple of decades, and led the marches and did what we had to do. I look at Martin III, we went to jail together, fighting these fights, like his daddy went to jail before. But I'm more hopeful today than ever. Why? Well, let me go back. Reverend Jackson always taught me, stay on your text. Go back to my text, Ecclesiastes. There is a time and a season. And when I looked this time and saw marches where in some cases young whites outnumbered the blacks marching, I know that it's a different time and a different season. When I looked and saw people in Germany marching for George Floyd, it's a different time and a different season. When they went in front of the parliament in London, England, and said it's a different time and a different season, I come to tell you, America, this is the time of dealing with accountability in the criminal justice system. Stephen, years ago, I went to march. I remember a young white lady looked me right in the face and said, "Nigga, go home." But when I was here last Thursday, and Miss Carr and I was headed back to the airport, I stopped at the police station. And as I was talking to a reporter, a young white girl, she didn't look no older than 11 years old. She tagged my suit jacket. And I looked around and I braced myself. And she looked at me and said, "No justice, no peace." It's a different time. It's a different season. And if my Bible carrying guy in front of that boarded up church, if I got him to open up the Bible, I want you to remember something. You know, I was late last October to an appointment because the time changed. And I was still, my watch was on the wrong time. You know, once a year, time goes forward. And if you don't, Congresswoman Omar, move your watch, you're going to find yourself an hour late, not because your watch was wrong, but you had your watch on the wrong time. Well, I come to tell you that are sitting in Washington, talking about militarizing the country, thinking that you can sell wolf tickets to people who's had enough of abuse. I come to tell you, you can get on the TV, but you on the wrong time. Time is out for not holding you accountable. Time is out for you making excuses. Time is out for you trying to stall. Time is out for empty words and empty promises. Time is out for you filibustering and trying to stall the arm of justice. This is the time. We won't stop. We gonna keep going until we change the whole system of justice. Our organizations have called this a day of mourning. NAACP, National Urban League, Legal Defense Fund, Black Women's Roundtable, Lawyers Committee, all got together, said we're going to have a day of mourning. But then we're going to come out this day of mourning. Because as some of our experts, Cheryl and Eiffel and others that know the legal field have outlined a legal process that we must enforce. Everything from residency to dealing with police background and not being hidden. Talked to Governor Andrew Cuomo today in New York. He says we got to change 58 where the backgrounds stop of policemen. We need to know if they stop you, they find out everything you ever did. Why don't we know when policemen have a pattern? We got to go back to consent decrees. Under the Obama administration, they had put certain cities with patterns and practice under consent decrees. From Jamal Bryant to know we was pastoring there in Baltimore, that they put it under consent decree. One of the first things that happened in the next administration was they stopped the consent decrees. We have specific policies that need to happen. Therefore, I'm glad Martin III is here today, because on August 28th, the 57th anniversary of the March on Washington, we're going back to Washington, Martin. That's where your father stood in the shadows of the Lincoln Memorial and said, I have a dream. Well, we're going back this August 28th to restore and recommit that dream, to stand up, because just like at one era we had to fight slavery, another era we had to fight Jim Crow, another era we dealt with voting rights. This is the era to deal with policing and criminal justice. We need to go back to Washington and stand up, Black, white, Latino, Arab, in the shadows of Lincoln, and tell them this is the time to stop this. Martin and I talked about this. I've asked Reverend Bryant to get the faith leaders together. I talked Randy Weingart about the labor leaders. Oh no, we're going to organize in the next couple months in every region, not only for a march, but for a new process. And it's going to be led by the Floyd family. And it's going to be led by the Garner family. And it's going to be led by those families that have suffered this and knows the pain and knows what it is to be neglected. And it's going to be getting us ready to vote, not just for who's going to be in the White House, but the State House and the city councils that allow these policing measures to go unquestioned. We are going to change the time. Let me say this to the family who has shown such great grace and real level and balanced thinking. And that's why I want them to help lead this. And I think one of the greatest thinkers of our time, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, I've asked come and speak. We need to break down, because y'all don't know what time it is. Y'all are operating like it's yesterday. And the reason y'all late catching up to what these protests means is because you didn't turn your clock forward. Talking about make America great. Great for who and great when? We gonna make America great for everybody for the first time. Never was great for blacks. Never was great for Latinos. Wasn't never great for others. Wasn't great for women. Young women had to march to get the right to vote. But lastly is the religious side. I was reading and kept thinking about how I was a little embarrassed, because when I heard that George, at this point of suffering this brutal attack, called for his mama, I said to Attorney Crump, I said, well, I appreciate talking to his brothers and them on the phone, but I want to talk to his mother. He said his mother passed. I said his mother passed, but he was calling for his mother. And I thought about it because I was raised by a single mother. And sometimes the only thing between us and our conditions was our mothers. Sometimes the only thing that we had that would take danger away was our mothers. The only ones that would make sure the food was on the table was our mother. I know why George was calling for mama. But then as I had got that all placed in my mind and I realized why I was always calling her. My mother died 8 years ago, but I still try to talk to her. Sometimes just dial the cell phone to hear the voicemail or the phone that I never cut off. I still want to reach out to mama. But talking to Quincy last night, one of his 5 children, Quincy said, you know, I was thinking maybe he was calling his mother. Because at the point that he was dying, his mother was stretching her hands out, saying, come on, George. I'll welcome you where the wicked will cease from troubling, where the weary will be at rest. There's a place where police don't put knees on you, George. There's a place that prosecutors don't drag their feet. Maybe mama said, come on, George. There's a God that still sits high, but he looks down low and he'll make a way out of no way. This God is still on the throne. The reason we can fight, I don't care who's in the White House, there is another house that said if we'll fight, he'll fight our battles. If we stand up, he'll hold us up. So as we leave here today, I say to this family, I know that years ago we told them, Reverend Jackson told us, keep hope alive. Then I know that President Obama wrote a book about hope. But I want you to know in my life, there's times that I lost hope. Things can happen like this that'll dash your hope. But there's something that is sister to hope called faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. Faith is when you got a pile of bills and no money, but you say he will provide all of my needs. Faith is when you got no medicine in the cabinet and you're sick in your body, but you say he's a doctor that never lost a patient and he'll dry tears from my eyes. Faith is when your friends walk out, when your loved ones turn their back, but you say, I don't believe he brought me this far to lead me now. We didn't come this far by luck. We didn't come this far by some fate. We come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in his holy word. He never failed me yet. From the outhouse to the White House, we come a long way. God will, God shall, God will, God always has. He'll make a way for his children. Go on home, George. Get your rest, George. You changed the world, George. We're going to keep marching, George. We're going to keep fighting, George. We done turned the clock, George. We're going forward, George. Time out. Time out. Time out. Hezekiah Walker. We ask gospel great Hezekiah Walker sing a song for the family. After which, Derek Johnson of the NAACP asked me Attorney Crump, we're going to stand for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Though that was the time that George was on the ground. We want you all over the world to stand with us for 8 minutes and 46 seconds and make that commitment for justice in the name of George. I want to thank the members of the Congressional Black Caucus for being with us. Won't you stand? I want to thank the son and heir and co-convener, Dr. Martin Luther King III, for being with us. I want to thank the mayor and the governor and their brides for being with the family. Senator Amy Klobuchar of the state of Minnesota. I want to thank my mentor and one who's fought this fight for more than a half a century. Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson is with us. And his spokesman for Rainbow Push, Jonathan Luther Jackson. I want to thank from the entertainment world, Kevin Hart. He told me don't mention he's here, so don't clap. Stand up, Kevin. We joke each other. Brother Beloved, stand up, brother Ludacris. Tyrese Gibson, who's an extraordinary activist in his own right. Master P. The one and only the creative genius, Will Packard, is with us today. And a brother that we've marched together and done a lot of things. He does not just put his name on somebody's petition, he puts his body on the line. Brother T.I. is in the house. I want this brother's one of the greatest gospel singers alive. Is Tiffany here? Oh, wait a minute. I didn't want to announce it and say I embarrassed her. Let me tell you something. One of the most popular, outstanding artists that is also committed. I've read her interview. She think I'm old and don't read stuff, but I do. And she's been committed and saying the right things, and she wanted to be here today. And I was so busy joking with Kevin, I didn't even look at her. Let us welcome our sister beloved, Sister Tiffany Haddish is in the house. Well, I'm going to announce all the rest. Wait a minute, y'all don't start introducing folks. I got them all. Let us hear a selection from Brother Hezekiah Walker.
God bless everybody. Let's have some church for a little while. Y'all ready to have some church? I came all the way from Brooklyn, New York to do this for George and the family. The song says, every praise, amen, is unto our God. Let's do it. Come on, let's stand to our feet, everybody. Come on. Come on. Put your hands together. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on. Every praise, come on. Every praise is to our God. To our God. Every word of worship. Every word of worship. On the call. Every praise. Every praise. Every praise. Every praise. To our God. To our God. Sing hallelujah. Sing hallelujah. To our God. Glory, hallelujah. Glory,
hallelujah to our God. To our God. Every praise. Every praise. Every praise. Every praise. To our God. To our God. Come on, let's take it up. Come on. Every praise. To our God. To our God. Put them hands together. Come on. Every word of worship. One accord. One accord. Every praise. Every praise. Every praise. Every praise. To our God. To our God. Look at your neighbor and say, sing hallelujah. Sing hallelujah. To our God. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. To our God. To our God. Every praise. Every praise. Every praise. Every praise. To our God. To our God. Come on, my people. Let's take it up one more time. Come on. Every praise. To our God. Every word of worship. Every word of worship. We want to call. One accord. Every praise. Every praise. Every praise. Every praise. To our God. To our God. I don't care how you feeling. Sing hallelujah. Hallelujah. To our God. To our God. Glory, hallelujah. To our God. Every praise. Every praise. Every praise. Every praise. To our God. To our God. This is my favorite part right here. Come on. God, my Savior. God, my healer. God, my deliverer. Yes, He is. Yes, He is. You say it now. God, my Savior. God, my Savior. God, my healer. God, my healer. God, my deliverer. Yes, He is. Yes, He is. Yes, He is. Yes, He is. God, my Savior. God, my Savior. God, my healer. God, my Savior. God, my deliverer. God, deliverer. Yes, He is. 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 Every praise, every praise to our God. To our God. Every word of worship. Every word of worship. We want to call it. Every praise. 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 All of my worship. Every praise. All of my praise. Every praise. See me dance. Every praise. Every praise. When you see me shout. Every praise. 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 To our God. To our God. Every praise. Every praise. Every praise. To our God. To our God. As Mike, all right, as we remain standing, I want to recognize Clyde Bellecourt of the American Indian Movement. Brother Bellecourt, we honored that you came. Thank you. And let me say, they recognize someone yelled out the state chair of the NAACP and many of Black Lives Matter, many of the grassroots organizations that have been doing the protests on the ground in Minneapolis and around the country. Movements are about everybody. We don't exclude anybody. Those young folks, some of them organic, some organized on their own, some NAACP, some Urban League, some National Action Network. We need everybody. This is not a competition. This is a movement. And we need to stop our competing and start fighting the real enemy. Thank you for doing what y'all are doing. When I got here, they were marching. And they kept marching. They didn't need nobody to come organize something. They organized. And we're going to stay organized. And I really thank them for their work. We want to pause for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I want because of the pandemic, I'm not going to ask you to take hands, but I want you to stand next to someone with the right distance. The amazing thing about this movement, people say they never see marches all over the country. Well, we've had that, but we never had it in a pandemic. The reason I know this is a different time is people came out by the hundreds of thousands at risk of their own health to stand up. People that had been sheltered in broke out of shelter. First flight I took was to come here in many weeks. Maybe in God's own way, Martin, the fact we were sheltered means we couldn't watch sports, couldn't watch nothing. We had to keep watching that tape. Maybe because we had no distractions, that finally we're ready to deal with this. So as we stand, I would like us to stand together, and I think there's only one woman up here. I want Tiffany, since I was disrespectful, would you come stand with us up here? Tiffany Haddish, so you won't be talking about me in your next interview. And I would like the mother of Eric Garner, who's mother of the one who originally died in police custody, saying, "I can't breathe," to stand with me and Ben Crump on stage. It's Gwen Carr. Let us stand. Somebody said, Reverend, 8 minutes is a long time. That meant it was long enough for the police to understand what they were doing. That means it was long enough for one of them 3 cops to stop what was going on. That means it was long enough for whatever this officer had in mind for him to rethink. As you go through these long 8 minutes, think about what George was going through, laying there for those 8 minutes, begging for his life. Heard someone say, narrating his own death. We can't let this go. We can't keep living like this. Sam Jackson, is Sam still here? Steve Jackson, is he here? Steve, we won't recognize, I was recognizing everybody. We got to stop this here. And we got to, in this time, bring about a new season. Let us stand still. You that believe in faith, bow your heads, or whichever way you worship.
Have your way, Lord. Yes, right now, Jesus. Yes, thank you, Jesus, for your word, Lord. Thank you, Jesus, for your peace to this family. Give them peace, Lord. We don't know their pain. We can't understand their pain, Lord, but I ask that you cover them, Lord Jesus. Give them peace in their hearts, Lord. His children, Lord Jesus. His mother, Lord. His brothers, cousins, Lord. As he called for his mother, Lord, have your way in this family's life, Jesus. For only you know why this has happened. Oh Lord, I have faith, Lord, I have faith, and I trust you for all that is going to happen and that is going to change. So Lord, have your way. Have your way, Lord. At this time, we trust you, Lord, in a mighty way. Lean not on your own understanding, but we trust you, Lord. We trust
That's
you,
a
Lord.
long time.
We
If
trust
we
you, Lord.
calculated with the clock here, that's
Yes,
how long
Lord.
he was laying there. There's no excuse. They had enough time. They had enough time. Now, what will we do with the time we have? As we usher the family out, please let us take them out first. They have to prepare to go to North Carolina and then back to Houston, where we will do the final services. They appreciate you all for coming. Let everybody else be seated but the family. Reverend Brian, will you come quickly? Give us a benediction. Just a benediction. And we're going to take the family out. Everyone else remain in your seats.
You'll remain where you are for the benediction. Good and gracious God, merciful Master, walk with us while we run this race. Speak to us as we lift our voice. Use our hand so that they do not become fists. Change our hearts so that our rage will shift to rehabilitation. Convict the country so it can finally be the land of the free and the home of the brave. We pray this prayer in the name of an innocent black man by the name of Jesus, who was killed by a government and still rose again. And with that power, we march on until victory is won.
Let's usher the family.
Excuse me, we need everyone to be seated except the family. Please, everyone, please be seated except the family. Let's, please, everyone, please remain in your seat as we escort this family.
The family of George Floyd now to be led out of the chapel here at the university. A stirring service for the man who was known to most Americans, most of the world. That awful video of him being held down out of the knee of a Minneapolis police officer. But the service today bringing to light who he was, the people who loved him, and his members of his family speaking. But perhaps the most powerful moment of this stirring service, at 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence, the same amount of time that George Floyd was under the knee of that police officer. Let me bring in today's show co-host and MSNBC anchor Craig Melvin. Craig, it was chilling that 8 minutes and 46 seconds. I'm a little bit above the crowd, but you could see the heads held down.
Hello, y'all. Hey, everyone. I say y'all because I'm from the South, and I say y'all. Hello to you all, and thank y'all for joining. I know that a lot of people were streaming this in different places, but when something is placed on my heart to do it, I do it, and I just find a way to do it respectfully. You know, people share what they want to share when they share it, how they share it, and they do what they do, and I do what I do, you know. And I was watching it with my husband while he was working, and I just felt like I had to step away because he was turning the TV up and down and up and down. And you know, I was like, well, let me just stream it and just have some conversation with other people that are watching it, you know, while it's happening, and get some feelings about, you know, input about how they're feeling right now with what's going on. And so I just chose to go live. So I thank y'all for tuning in with me. You could watch it from anywhere. It wasn't about that. I just wanted to not feel like I was watching it alone, basically, to be honest. I've done funerals so many times as the usher at my church, and they all resonated differently, you know. And so I didn't want to watch it alone, to be honest, but I did want to watch it. So thank y'all. J Dunn, hey, and Trisha, and A View, and Positive, hello. And to add insult to the injury, the cop was so relaxed, he had his hand in his pocket, and he was applying pressure. I finally watched the video. I had to really I didn't want to watch it then. I wanted to watch it then I kept battling with myself. And so I just see, I knew it was going to disturb me and have me in my feelings. But when I watched it, I can see what the officer was doing. And I can also see how Mr. Floyd, his life was passing through him. And for that officer to put his hand fall down, that's like applying extra pressure to what he was doing. He was aware of what he was doing. And when Mr. Floyd was screaming out, I can't breathe. And I can't breathe. And he called for his mama. When I heard him call for his mama, that really took me out because, you know, at that point, he was just calling out to the only person that he knew at that moment. I feel like he felt himself passing through. I feel like he felt himself leaving here. And I feel like he could have been, I don't know this, I'm saying I feel like he could have been seeing his mom come to him. And I feel like he was crying out to her, you know, just, oh, it's heartbreaking. I can't even get my words together because it's so heartbreaking. Always here tuning in. If you keep it up, I will be able to watch the replay uninterrupted later this evening. I have been in and out of here, but living. Okay, boo, you good? I'm about to end it. I had some things that I was doing anyway, but thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. I just wanted to watch that with someone. I didn't want to watch it alone. I just wanted to have some conversation going back and forth with whomever. It didn't matter if it was one person. It didn't matter to me. I just wanted to watch it with someone. And my husband was on his on a call with his job. And I couldn't take him turning that TV up and down and up and down and up and down. And then he was like, what you said? What you? And I was just like, oh my goodness. I wanted us to be focused on what was happening. But thank y'all for tuning in and watching that with me. I appreciate it. Stay safe. I always say, I don't try and push my religion off on anyone. But get in the Word. If you're not in the Word, get your relationship. It's your relationship with God. You work on that. You work on your relationship with God. God will meet you right where you are. We are all sinners. Life is precious. We don't know the day, the time, nor the hour, but it's time to get it right. Get it right. Let go of grudges. Get some understanding. Because you don't know the last day. You don't know. We don't know. Only God knows. And if today was my last day, I wouldn't want it to have been, I wouldn't want to have been mean to someone, have hurt someone's feelings, been evil, vindictive. I just wouldn't have wanted to. I'm not perfect. People have hurt my feelings. I'm sure I've hurt people's feelings without knowing it, or if I know it, if I have, let me know. I apologize. Forgive me. I'm not too big to apologize. Never have been. It's up to you to forgive or not to forgive. All right, y'all. Y'all have a great day. Thank y'all for watching. I love you. I care about you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Sincerely, A Lucy, you all take care. Blessings and be safe.